What if the food you eat every day is quietly influencing what happens inside your arteries years from now? Most people think clogged arteries are simply an unavoidable part of getting older. But your arteries are living tissue, and the way you eat can influence cholesterol, blood pressure, inflammation, and metabolic health. Today, we're looking at 6 food categories that can make a heart-healthy diet much easier to follow after 60. Imagine a 69-year-old man named Robert. He wasn't overweight, he rarely complained about his health, and he assumed his heart was fine. But during a routine appointment, his doctor noticed several cardiovascular risk factors beginning to stack up. His blood pressure was creeping higher, his cholesterol wasn't ideal, and he had become much less active since retirement. Suddenly, his everyday meals looked very different to him. Robert's biggest mistake wasn't eating one particular bad food. It was believing that heart disease happens because of one bad choice. In reality, cardiovascular risk often develops through patterns repeated hundreds or thousands of times. Breakfasts, snacks, drinks, dinners, portion sizes, activity, sleep, and blood pressure can all interact. And that's actually good news because patterns can be changed. As a senior health educator, I want to make one thing clear before we continue. No single meal can physically scrub plaque out of your arteries overnight. And no food should replace prescribed treatment for high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, or established heart disease. What nutrition can do is help create an internal environment that is friendlier to cardiovascular health. And that is where today's 6 categories become important. Think about your arteries like flexible highways carrying blood throughout your body. They need healthy inner surfaces, appropriate pressure, and smooth blood flow. Over time, problems such as elevated LDL cholesterol, high blood pressure, smoking, diabetes, inflammation, and other factors can contribute to atherosclerosis. Your diet doesn't control every part of this process, but it can influence several of these risk factors at the same time. And here's an important correction to the phrase, unclog your arteries. Your body doesn't work like a kitchen drain. You eat a food, and a blockage doesn't simply disappear. Cardiovascular improvement is usually about reducing risk and supporting healthier biology over time. Sometimes plaque can stabilize, and in some circumstances measurable changes can occur, but the goal should be long-term cardiovascular protection, not a miracle detox. The first category is surprisingly ordinary. Fiber-rich foods. Think beans, lentils, oats, barley, vegetables, and other minimally processed plant foods. Why do they matter? Certain types of dietary fiber can help influence cholesterol levels, blood sugar control, and fullness. That means one simple dietary habit can potentially affect several cardiovascular risk factors instead of targeting just one. Here's the part many people overlook. Fiber doesn't simply pass through your digestive system doing nothing. Certain fibers interact with substances involved in cholesterol metabolism, while high-fiber meals can also slow digestion and help produce a steadier rise in blood glucose. For someone over 60, that combination can be especially useful when metabolic health is becoming more important. Imagine replacing a highly processed breakfast with a bowl of oatmeal topped with berries and a small amount of nuts. You're not following a complicated diet. You're simply creating a meal with more fiber and less dependence on refined ingredients. If someone has digestive problems or another medical condition, however, increasing fiber should be gradual and individualized. The goal is a sustainable pattern, not a sudden dietary overhaul. The second category is nuts and seeds. Almonds, walnuts, pistachios, chia seeds, and ground flax can provide unsaturated fats, fiber, minerals, and other plant compounds. They're also useful because they can replace less heart-friendly snack foods. Instead of thinking, I need to eat a handful of nuts because they're a superfood, think about what you're replacing them with. But there's a catch. Nuts are nutritious and also energy-dense. A giant bowl of them can turn a healthy snack into a very large calorie load. Flavored versions can also contain excess salt, sugar, or coatings. A better strategy is choosing mostly unsalted nuts or seeds and treating them as a small addition to meals, rather than something you can eat endlessly because the label says, heart healthy. For example, a small portion of walnuts can be added to oatmeal, plain yogurt, or a vegetable-based meal. Ground flax can be mixed into foods rather than consumed in large quantities. The goal isn't to chase a perfect serving size. It's to make nutrient-dense foods convenient enough that they naturally replace less nutritious choices. Number 3 is a category most people know they should eat more often but still underestimate: colorful vegetables. Leafy greens, peppers, broccoli, carrots, tomatoes, cabbage, and other vegetables bring fiber, potassium, vitamins, minerals, and numerous plant compounds. Instead of focusing on one magic vegetable, variety gives you a broader nutritional package. Your body doesn't need just one antioxidant or one vitamin. Different plant foods contain different compounds that interact with your biology in different ways. That's why a plate containing several colors can be more useful than repeatedly eating the same vegetable every day. Think green, orange, red, purple, and white. The more variety you can comfortably maintain, the easier it becomes to build a balanced eating pattern. And here's a simple trick for older adults. Don't make vegetables a separate chore. Add them to foods you're already eating. Put spinach into eggs. Add chopped vegetables to soup. Mix beans into a meal. Roast vegetables alongside your main dish. When healthy foods become part of familiar meals, you're far more likely to continue eating them months from now. The 4th category is fatty fish. Salmon, sardines, trout, herring, and similar fish provide omega-3 fats along with high-quality protein. These fats are involved in many processes throughout the body, and fish can be an especially useful replacement for meals built around processed or heavily saturated fat foods. But there's another reason fish can be useful. It gives you a protein-rich meal without requiring large amounts of processed meat. For many older adults, that matters because nutrition isn't only about adding beneficial foods. It's also about gradually changing the balance of the entire diet. A fish-based dinner with vegetables and a high-fiber side looks very different from a meal dominated by processed meat and refined carbohydrates. Of course, fish isn't automatically healthy just because it's fish. Preparation matters. Deep frying can completely change the nutritional profile of a meal. And certain fish contain more mercury than others, which is why choosing a variety of lower mercury options is sensible. If you have kidney disease or another condition requiring protein restrictions, your dietary plan should also be personalized. The 5th category may surprise you. Certain unsweetened dairy foods, particularly options such as plain yogurt or kefir, can fit comfortably into a cardiovascular-friendly diet for many people. They can provide protein, calcium, and other nutrients. The key word here is unsweetened. A product can look healthy on the front while containing a surprising amount of added sugar. This is where food marketing can become confusing. Low-fat, natural, fitness, and heart-healthy don't automatically tell you what is inside the package. Turn it around. Check the added sugar, sodium, saturated fat, serving size, and ingredient list. A simple plain yogurt with fruit you add yourself can be very different from a dessert-like flavored yogurt. The 6th category is extra virgin olive oil. It is rich in monounsaturated fat and contains naturally occurring plant compounds. It's a major part of many traditional Mediterranean-style eating patterns. But remember what makes the pattern useful. Olive oil is not consumed in isolation. It's usually combined with vegetables, legumes, whole grains, fish, nuts, and other minimally processed foods. The mistake is turning olive oil into a health potion and pouring it over everything. It still contains a lot of calories. A few tablespoons can add up quickly. Use it as a replacement for less favorable fats rather than simply adding unlimited amounts on top of your existing diet. That's a much more practical way to use it. Now let's talk about something many people ask. Does eating one particular food automatically cause clogged arteries? Usually, the answer is more complicated. Cardiovascular risk depends on the overall dietary pattern, portion sizes, cooking methods, individual health conditions, and what foods are being displaced. A diet dominated by processed meats is very different from occasionally eating a modest portion of minimally processed meat alongside vegetables and legumes. One pattern worth watching closely is highly processed food. Packaged pastries, sugary snacks, processed meats, refined grains, and heavily salted convenience foods can make it easy to consume large amounts of calories, sodium, added sugars, and unhealthy fats without feeling satisfied. You don't need to eliminate every packaged food. But the more your diet depends on heavily processed products, the harder it can become to control the overall nutritional pattern. And don't forget what you drink. Liquid calories can sneak into your diet without creating the same feeling of fullness as solid food. Sugary sodas, sweetened coffees, energy drinks, and large servings of juice can add substantial sugar. Water, unsweetened tea, or other low-calorie beverages can be much simpler choices for everyday hydration. Here's the most important lesson. Don't build your heart health strategy around a single superfood. Build a plate. Start with vegetables or other plant foods. Add a source of protein. Include a high-fiber carbohydrate when appropriate. Use healthier fats in reasonable portions. Then make water or another low-sugar drink the default. That pattern is far more powerful than obsessing over one ingredient. And food affects more than cholesterol. A diet rich in potassium-containing plant foods and lower in excess sodium can support healthier blood pressure in many people. That's important because your arteries experience pressure every minute of every day. If you're already taking blood pressure medication, don't stop it because your diet improves. Nutrition and medication decisions should be made together with your healthcare professional. Blood sugar is another piece of the puzzle. Repeatedly consuming highly refined meals can make glucose management more difficult, especially in someone with insulin resistance or diabetes. Pairing carbohydrates with fiber, protein, and healthy fats can change how a meal behaves. If you have diabetes, however, your medication and glucose response matter, so dietary changes may require monitoring. This brings us to supplements. The internet is full of products claiming to dissolve plaque, clean arteries, or dramatically lower cholesterol. Be careful. A supplement being natural doesn't make it automatically effective or safe. Some can interact with medications, affect blood pressure, alter blood clotting, or cause other problems. Your first investment should usually be your overall eating pattern, not a cabinet full of capsules. And food works even better when paired with movement. You don't need to become an athlete. Regular walking, resistance exercises, cycling, swimming, or another activity appropriate for your health can support cardiovascular fitness and metabolic health. If you're sedentary, start where you are. A consistent moderate routine is far more useful than an intense workout you abandon after 2 weeks. Now I'm curious about you. If you had to change just one thing about your current diet, what would be easiest? Eating more vegetables, replacing processed snacks, drinking fewer sugary beverages, eating more fish, adding beans and whole grains, or changing your cooking fats? Tell me in the comments. Your answer may give someone else an idea they can actually use. Before changing your diet dramatically, take a look at your numbers. Ask your healthcare professional about your blood pressure, cholesterol, blood glucose, weight, and overall cardiovascular risk. If you've already been diagnosed with heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, or another chronic condition, ask which dietary changes are appropriate specifically for you. Then change your grocery cart before trying to change your entire life. Buy vegetables you actually enjoy. Keep beans or lentils available. Choose minimally processed whole grains when appropriate. Keep unsalted nuts in controlled portions. Buy fish you know how to prepare. Choose plain yogurt instead of heavily sweetened versions. Small environmental changes can make healthy decisions much easier. Here's an easy formula you can remember. Half the plate can be vegetables or other plant foods, when appropriate. Add a sensible protein source. Choose a high-fiber carbohydrate if desired. Use a modest amount of healthier fat. Then ask yourself one final question. Is this meal mostly made from foods that still look like the foods they came from? That simple question can eliminate a surprising amount of dietary confusion. The encouraging part is that improving your diet doesn't require perfection. If your meals have been heavy in processed foods for decades, you don't need to wake up tomorrow and become a completely different person. Start by changing one meal, then change one snack, then improve your drinks. Over time, those small adjustments can completely change the pattern of what you eat. And if you're already in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, don't assume it's too late to care about cardiovascular health. Your future health isn't determined entirely by what you did at 30. Managing risk factors today can still matter for your heart, blood vessels, mobility, independence, and quality of life. You don't need a perfect past to make a healthier decision today. Remember Robert from the beginning? He didn't throw away every food in his kitchen. Instead, he started making smaller changes. He replaced some processed snacks with fruit and nuts, added beans and vegetables to several meals each week, switched some meals toward fish, and became more consistent with walking. His goal wasn't to clean his arteries in a week. His goal was to make his next 10 years healthier than his previous 10. At his next checkup, the biggest victory wasn't one dramatic number. He had become more aware of his blood pressure, his food portions, his activity, and his daily routine. He felt more in control. And that's often what sustainable health improvement looks like. Not a miracle morning, not a magical food, just hundreds of better decisions gradually becoming normal. Remember this, your heart doesn't need you to eat perfectly. It needs you to stop making unhealthy choices your everyday routine. One meal may not transform your arteries, but the meals you repeat for years can shape the environment in which your heart and blood vessels have to function. So let's make today's 6 categories simple. Prioritize fiber-rich plant foods. Include nuts and seeds in sensible portions. Eat a variety of colorful vegetables. Choose appropriate fatty fish when you eat seafood. Consider nutritious unsweetened dairy if it suits you. And use healthier fats such as extra virgin olive oil in reasonable amounts. Then reduce the highly processed foods that crowd these choices out. But don't make the mistake of thinking food can replace medical treatment. If you've been prescribed a statin, blood pressure medicine, diabetes medication, or another cardiovascular treatment, don't stop it because a video told you that a certain food can reverse plaque. Nutrition is one part of cardiovascular care. Your actual risk profile determines what else you may need. You don't need to wait for your next birthday, your next diagnosis, or your next frightening blood test. Start with your next grocery trip. Choose one better breakfast. Add one vegetable. Replace one processed snack. Take a short walk after a meal if your health allows it. Your goal isn't perfection. Your goal is to make the healthier choice easier to repeat. If you're ready to make one heart health change this week, comment, "I'm starting." Then tell me which change you're making first. And if someone in your family is worried about cholesterol, blood pressure, or heart disease, share this video with them. Sometimes the most valuable health advice isn't complicated. It is the advice that finally gets someone to take the first step. One final reminder. This video is for general education and is not a personalized medical treatment plan. Atherosclerosis and cardiovascular disease can have many causes, and individual dietary needs vary. If you have known heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, uncontrolled blood pressure, high cholesterol, or take prescription medication, discuss major dietary changes with your healthcare professional. And never stop or change prescribed medication without medical guidance.